Hello everyone! Today I will be featuring the Neustrashimy, this time volume 2 of the Neustrashimy, as they have actually nerfed the heal a bit. It used to heal 2% per second, now it heals 1.5% per second. So a pretty significant nerf to the capacity of the heal. Now, besides that, the ship hasn't actually changed that much, so I will be focusing a lot on how to play the DD rather than how the DD plays, because, well, I've already covered all the stats and comparisons, especially the other tier 9 DDs and so forth. Before I get into this, I want to highlight though that on Friday I will be traveling to St. Petersburg, and on Saturday on my stream I will be casting the King of the Sea finals. That means the grand finals of the EU tournament, and then on Sunday we'll be seeing the international finals, which will pit EU versus Russia. The top 3 teams from both regions will be facing each other. So if you thought the highlight clip that I posted the other day, the TWA versus RT game, was good, well, there's a lot more of that to come on Saturday and on Sunday. I'm pretty sure the games will start around 15-16 CET, pretty normal times on my stream. If you follow my Twitter or Discord, I'll obviously be posting updates there. Anyway, I wanted to highlight that that's coming up this coming weekend, so if you're the slightest bit interested in competitive World of Warships, there's a chance to enjoy it. If you're wondering, I didn't accidentally ground into the island there. No, the idea was I stopped. It's actually faster to stop your ship by grounding than it is to try to slow down and reverse. Now, I'm a bit sad here because I threw preemptive torps at exactly where this Fletcher was sailing, and those torps would probably have killed him. But one of my division mates decided to pop the radar because he was contesting the cap, so the Fletcher turned out because he was radared and happened to at the same time dodge my predictive torps. Now, as I grounded and reversed into the cap, it's very easy for me to accelerate and get out of position, which is of course the reason why I did this. This kind of approach to capping objectives is very safe. You can do it on multiple parts or on different maps. Basically, you just go nose into the island next to the cap and then you reverse into the cap. If you get radared or spotted or whatever, it's an easy way to not have to bother turning your ship around. You can just sail straight out of the cap. So, a bit annoyed that the radar kind of ruined my plans, but whatever. The reason, of course, for the preemptive torps was that with the way ships usually cap this B objective is that they enter from the east side and then they sail across exactly towards where my torps were, because it's much easier to exit the cap from that side. So the idea was there, but sadly it didn't quite work out. Now you note that I took a fair bit of damage. I'm down to about 16k health. But even a nerfed Neustrashimy heal is very potent. You can see all the grey area that I can heal back, and well, you could probably also see the terrible dispersion of the guns, which is something I still think is a very frustrating issue. When you only have 4 guns and the dispersion is what it is and the reload is what it is, when it comes to grading, you kind of need the heal to stay relevant in this thing. I still don't really feel that comfortable fighting Kitakazes in this ship because, well, you can't take a 1 versus 1 fight with them. Even with your super heal, their raw DPM will probably still just melt you. You do have advantages though, like concealment, and of course, if you manage to disengage with the smoke, you should be able to. You can come back later and basically outtrade him just with the power of that healing. Since this camp is still open, I decided to come back around, contest it again. Another set of preemptive torps. There's an Ibuki coming that way, might hit him. There's a bunch of other ships there as well. And the Fletcher is back. And he spots me, so I might as well open up again. I note that the Seattle is still here in range, which is a bit annoying because the Seattle might have radar. So I'm a bit sketchy about smoking up right now. In fact, I'm trying to outtrade this Fletcher, see if I could get him killed. I do pop my heal and, well, you can obviously see just how much health we are recovering. And a couple of hits, gonna see if I can maybe finish him. No such luck. It's not enough damage to kill him. There's a follow-up radar, gonna see if I can maybe this time finally get rid of this Fletcher. He's got 600 health left. The dispersion for once looks pretty damn solid, and I do finish him off. Time to smoke up, see if I can get undetected before the Ibuki can kill me. I am very ready to disengage though, because yep, there's as we expected, there is the radar, and we're forced to disengage again. This is of course the hard part about, well, any sort of high tier destroyer gameplay, is that, well, you have to play around the constant radaring. and if you don't have extra health to burn like the Neustrashimy has. The Neustrashimy in essence is a DD that is very willing to trade a lot of health just to kill other DDs or to contest caps, because it's one of the few DDs that can do it. I will show you at the end just how much damage I tanked this game, but for a destroyer it is a very significant number. Now my Kronstadt is pretty overextended actually here. The Kronstadt is many things, but particularly tanky is not one of them. And being this exposed with that 25mm plating, and even Torps coming in, yeah, he's actually going to just burn to death. So my Kronstadt overextends a bit too much trying to get into this cap, and it looks like he might be burning to death behind me. I'm taking the very safe approach though, and trying to see if I can just reverse and get this cap. Considering how much effort they put into denying me this cap, I think I'm pretty justified in trying to take it safe. There might be more Ibuki Torps, there might be Edinburgh Torps. I'm not exactly sure what the Seattle is doing. We have him on pushing up between the islands. Regardless though, I'm just gonna play it safe. We're missing the Jervis as well. The Jervis was last seen leaving from A. I'm not sure if he might be moving towards B because they have so much support here. Overall, taking this kind of approach is usually the safest choice. Got Torps ready in case the Seattle decides to try to push through this gap. He appears to be stopping. And it looks like he's just gonna play it very, very safe behind the island. So no chance really to Torp him. He is coming towards us, and there is of course the risk that he's running Hydro. So at this point I need to be prepared to start moving away. I'm gonna go a bit closer, see is he actually running Hydro, as that will allow me to decide if I want to YOLO him or not. And it turns out he is running Hydro. But finding out he's running Hydro on this side of the islands is pretty damn safe, and it shouldn't risk me capping this objective. I'm using the speed boost to quickly dodge out of the way of the shells, and before the rest can shoot me or land any shells, I will have no issues capping. I make sure I create distance between me and the Seattle so that I leave his Hydro range. There are some shells coming in, but ultimately the damage isn't that bad. Now I say it isn't that bad. In general you want to be a lot more careful with your health, but I kinda play a bit more reckless in the Neustrashimy, in the sense that I'm willing to take a bit more risks. I'm willing to play around with the health a bit more and potentially try to get these rewards that you'd be afraid to go for in other ships. The Seattle actually pops the radar again coming around a corner. Considering I was last seen leaving the cap, this is a bit surprising to me because, well, there wasn't really much point. I was last seen leaving, and then I came back with the idea of ambushing, but he was actually fairly prepared for this, or maybe it was just a random radar. Regardless though, we're gonna try to get behind the island, and we're gonna load some AP towards him. You gotta remember that these are Grossovoy guns, so the AP is actually, as you can see, pretty damn effective, and I'm capable of citadeling him, and more importantly, it actually breaks his engine, which really messes with his speed. And this is of course excellent for me because, well, I already got preemptive Torps there. I was hoping it tried to rush me and try to push into my team, but just getting a bunch of damage and trying to bait him into my Torps is enough. He ran his Hydro earlier, so there's a risk he can't see them, and he does in fact get caught by one of the Torps as he tries to dodge away while at the same time shooting me. In the meantime, I do pop a heal, so all that incoming damage I've been taking, well, I'm already back to 16k health. The Torps are fairly limited at only the 10km range, but they are quite fast and they pack a decent punch, so you can play around them. But the thing, basically the gimmick, the point of this DD is absolutely still that health pool that you can play around with, that health pool that you can use, you can trade it for objectives, you can trade it for damage, you can trade it for intelligence. DD health is extremely valuable compared to the health of basically any other ship, and I've been a bit on the ropes here. Or is it overpowered? Is it underpowered? Like, which one does it go? Because, well, the gunpowder can feel very anemic at times, and especially when dispersion is trolling you a bit, it can be frustrating to see a DD sail away and you're completely incapable of finishing the kill simply because, well, you're not landing the shells and you don't have enough DPM to really get the kill before they get undetected. And it's still a big destroyer, so even with the heal you do eat a fair bit of damage. I feel as a DD design it might be quite successful. Is the heal maybe still a bit much? Possible, but if the thing is, if they nerf the heal too much, then the ship will just be bad. That's really what it comes down to, because ultimately you have to put the ship up against a bunch of really hard-hitting heavyweights like Jutland and Kitakaze and Fletcher, like these really good tier 9 DDs, and you have to compare them, you have to compare the ship to them, and that's really not an easy task. I'm going here for some bit of dual-purpose torps. Launching torps towards the Duke of York or Alabama that might be pushing in, and there's even a Jervis that's heading back. So these are kind of like triple threat torps. I might hit pretty much anything in that general direction. So having secured or launched my torps, I'm gonna disengage fairly fast. I am running a full torpedo build. I think it's the exact same build I was running the last time, so I'm not gonna bother. Showing off that build. I can just link my previous Neustrashimy commentary. I'm still very much a full torpedo boat build because, well, as I mentioned, I've tried going full gunboat and ultimately the guns really aren't that impressive anyway. So rather than try to compensate for weakness, I actually managed to secure the Jervis with these torps, which makes my life a lot easier. So rather than try to compensate for weakness, the lack of gunpowder, by building the guns better, I've instead tried to build up the strength as much as possible, which is of course the torpedoes. We're running a torpedo reload, the 3 million torpedo reload upgrade. We're running the torpedo reload captain perk. We are very much invested in having the fastest possible reload on these torps. The only thing we're missing is torpedo acceleration, and that's honestly because 10 km range at tier 9 is already quite risky, because it forces you to push into a lot of radar ranges to get any value. If you're wondering why I'm constantly looking behind me, I'm worried about exactly that, the Ibuki popping up in the gap, and that was quite predictable. I am going to launch some preemptive torps at him if he decides to push in, and it looks like he is. We send one volley. Note that I don't want to commit them both. The idea is if he turns in towards me, I have another set available. If he turns wide, well then those torps will be enough to kill him, or I can possibly even citadel him with these guns, as I've already shown against the Seattle. Ultimately though, it looks like he's actually grounded. I think he might have actually grounded behind the island. Popping defensive AA to see if I can maybe get rid of this plane that's giving him a lot of vision. And more importantly, I'm a bit afraid of popping around this corner because, well, the Musashi is sitting right there waiting, and I am missing one set of torps. And I do not have enough torpedo power to one-shot this Musashi with just one set. And also rushing a battleship with just one set is inherently very risky. So we're gonna see if we can maybe play around with some time here and just utilize the terrain, stay undetected, maybe see what this Ibuki is doing. The good thing about his position is that if he enters the cap, he just entered the cap, I know he's behind me. If the cap gets contested on the minimap, I know the Ibuki is right behind me. So now, having secured that, we're gonna smoke up, there the Ibuki is, and we're gonna launch one set of torps against this Musashi. We're saving the other one, we're using the smoke to buy time. We're in a very awkward position. Luckily, the Ibuki is quite afraid of fighting us. So I'm gonna see if we can put some AP in on him and perhaps deny this cap, because this game isn't over by any means. Actually, another ship just died, so we're down to 5 versus 7. I land one torp on the Musashi. So this already means an instantly damage cons. So this means his damage con is now on cooldown, and but the worrying part is of course that I've lost vision because my Jervis decided to smoke up as well. At this point, I'm afraid of what the Ibuki might do. I'm afraid of possible Ibuki torps, so it's time to go on defensive. If you're really unsure of what the enemy is doing, take the initiative, force them to be defensive. And it turns out the Musashi was actually pushing towards me, so I chose the optimal time to rush out. He gets a good hit in, but that zombie heal kicks in, and I'm able to recover a huge amount of health. I'm saving torps. I need to land all 5 of them, launch them out on the full broadside. Torp volley is perfect, I land all 5, but it's still not enough to kill him. His nose is saturated, you see how darkened it is, so I switch my crosshair to the back of his ship, because the back is not saturated at all, and I can easily penetrate it and guaranteed get damage. So you see how I'm getting these 3.5k volleys all the time? That's that stern that was completely unsaturated, full of HP, and easy to get that extra damage from. If both the stern and the bow had been blackened, by basically saturated, I would have focused the upper belt. But the problem with shooting the upper belt is that it gets a bit risky. If you aim a bit too high, you might hit the superstructure and get overpens. If you aim a bit low, you might hit his citadel belt, which is far too thick for you to be able to penetrate, and you'll just shatter. So in situations like that, it's always a pretty good, or often a very good idea to go for the bow or the stern if they're unsaturated, because it's, first of all, it's guaranteed penetration. Second of all, it's just, well, it's guaranteed damage, very low risk damage, and that's exactly what you need in situations like that. Kill him before he can kill you. The Tash can't open up right after, but I just shot him out because, well, he didn't have enough health. He was trying to kill me before I could kill him, but especially with the help of that heal, we were able to finish it. So we have a Kraken at this point. The problem is, well, I've been killing all of these ships. Well, everyone on my team has died. So I tell my Jervis, go capture B. He has significantly more health to play with, and considering Jervis has access to things like Hydro and probably has more smokes than I do, he's better suited for going there and contesting it. Meanwhile, I'm going to utilize my torpedo build and the fact that, well, I'm so low HP, so AR has kicked in big time, to see if I can get some torps in on these battleships who will be pushing towards B, especially once that Jervis starts contesting it. Props to the Jervis to actually listening to my advice. Oftentimes in situations like this, well, people tend to do a lot of questionable things, so him doing exactly what I tell him to is a very nice change of pace. Trust me, it doesn't happen often. People love to ignore my advice. I'm not saying I always give the correct advice, but I am saying oftentimes when people ignore it, their own choices might not be the best either. Preemptive torps on the Alabama. The issue is, of course, Alabama's torpedo belt is massive. It's one of the best torpedo belts in the game. Still though, I need to delay him. I need to stop him from getting there to B. The Jervis doesn't even need to cap B. If he can just contest it for another 3 minutes, that's enough points for us to win the game. I land 2 torps on him. He instantly damage cons. And I'm a bit tempted here. The problem is, if he keeps pushing, I don't really want him to push towards B. The Jervis has enough on his plate fighting the Ibuki, so I'm actually going to start opening up with AP on him. The idea is I might completely bait him away. I lose vision, but luckily he does shoot. And apparently the Jervis has also smoked up. I wasn't expecting that. I should probably have paid more attention. If he wants to keep going that way, I can just keep nailing him with AP, but usually when ships get shot with AP, and especially when they start taking damage, this is the upper belt I spoke of, by the way. You see how I'm aiming for the upper belt? It's a bit less consistent than bow or stern, because you see I'm getting both overpens and shatters, neither of which I got while I was fighting the Yamato. The reason for going for this upper belt is, of course, that at this range is kind of hard to hit. It's safer to go for the upper belt, it's more consistent at range. At close range, bow or stern is more consistent. Still, our bait tactic kind of works. He doesn't like the AP shells, he starts turning in towards me, I launch both sets of torps, and I of course get out of my smoke. Because, once again, it's only 2 minutes remaining, I don't need to kill them all to win, I need to maintain our points advantage. I land a torpedo, I know he's used his damage con earlier, so this means this guy will be permanently flooding, which will make my getaway even easier. Jervis, just basically hiding in behind that island. The Ibuki is too afraid to go push him. Fortunate for us, if the Ibuki played more aggressive, it would be a lot harder. But as long as they are afraid to go in and pick a fight with him, I got a lot of room to play around with. At this point, we're just waiting to see where the Alabama will pop up. He's still flooding and still taking a lot of damage. If he's low enough to be able to one-shot, I will kill him with my guns. But right now, we're just going to play it safe. Our goal is to secure this Alabama kill, because that will secure the victory. Alabama has stopped flooding. He's still got 4.5k though. That's too hard to gun down, so I'm going to just kill him with my torps. I only need to land 1 set of torps, so I make a widespread as possible. When I mean widespread, I don't mean switching from the narrow to the widespread. I mean basically putting your torpedo indicator on both sides of the white line, of the center of the white line, and creating this, as you can see, this very wide pattern that is hard to dodge. And I already tell him in chat, just live, I will kill Alabama. All he needs to do is live, and we will win. And you see the kind of widespread I've created. Impossible for him to dodge them all. All he needed to do was land 1 torpedo, and that's exactly what I do. And I scored the 6th kill, and this swings the points into our favor. And the Jervis, he's been playing very safe. He's reversed back and kept himself alive, which is exactly the only thing he needed to do at this point. And this game that seemed kind of impossible has actually been turned into a victory, which is of course always satisfying, especially when it looked fairly shaky at one point. Game ends, 173,000 damage, 1.3 million credits. It is a tier 9. 6 kills, half the enemy team, 6 torpedoes, 6 torpedo hits, only 1 cap and a couple of resets. So, but the reason for this, of course, the lack of caps and resets was how much time I spent playing around the B objective, which is a cap that is normally considered quite risky and quite hard to play around, but the Neustrashimy's additional health pool enables it to play around these riskier caps, these difficult to contest, difficult to cap objectives. Looking at team score, 2.3k base XP, 6 kills. The Jervis doesn't actually get any kills, but the fact that he was willing to listen made this victory possible. If he had gone run off trying to get some kills or whatever, it might have become a much more difficult game. Him being in B made him the only visible opponent for the enemy team, and it basically drew all the enemy ships towards him like a moth. That's why I sent him there, because it allowed me to make use of my low HP torpedo reload much better, and allowed us to score that Alabama kill on the way in. Looking at the detailed report, well, this is where of course things become interesting. We can talk about the damage, 12 torpedo hits, 102k, not that impressive average damage per torp, a bit of HE damage, a bit of AP with the guns, and a bit of flooding. Once again, nothing too impressive, a full 20-minute game, 700,000 potential, a bit of spotting, 36k, and then of course we come to the bread and butter of the Neustrashimy. Damage received, 46,650, and I lived. I didn't die. You gotta... that is a pretty absurd number for a destroyer to tank. That is a pretty absurd number of health for a destroyer to tank. So, well, I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. What do you think? Is it too much for a DD? Or do you think the ship is in a good state? When it comes to damage, well, it certainly doesn't compete with the likes of Jutland or Kitakaze, or I mean even the likes of Fletcher. It doesn't nearly have the same power in DPM, but it is a bit of a unique destroyer in the sense that it has one very unique strength, and that's that it's uniquely survivable, uniquely hard to kill. And I actually kind of like that concept. I like the uniqueness, and as a premium I thought it was a bit dumb previously because it was just too much healing. Now though, maybe they have started to reach something of a balance when it comes to designing the ship. I think it's quite fun. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm gonna call it here. I'm not gonna bother showing the build because I'm pretty sure, 99.9% sure, it's the exact same build that I used in my previous commentary. I can put a link to it in the description below. And a reminder, if you guys want to see some competitive World of Warships, tune into my stream on Saturday and Sunday when EU takes on Russia. Or well, first EU fights for who's the best, and then we take on Russia. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.